What's going on YouTube? So we're back in the garage. We got our seals, thanks to my buddy Ryan. He works at a Honda dealership, so that comes in handy. Thanks again, man. And then, yeah, we're ready to go. I already threw the bearings in, cleaned everything up, cleaned the crank up. I'm gonna wipe it down again. But we're ready to throw our crank in, get the Honda bond and the seals up, turn it around, throw our pistons in, and we're gonna get this short block done tonight. And I want to get it like hanging on the hoist, so like all my clutch stuff's going to be bolted up, or not clutch, converter stuff's going to be bolted up, and it's going to be ready. So tomorrow morning when I get up, get coffee in me, come out here, get this motor in the S2000 and get it running tomorrow hopefully. I'm going to put it in with no head because it's a lot easier to bolt everything up with no head. So I'll cover it up. I think I'm going to make like a cardboard template, cover the top up so the chains ain't in the cylinder walls and stuff. Drop it in the morning, and then we'll put the head on top afterwards. Finally have a short block again, and listen to this nice you guys hear that? That's called grip. These piston rings are gripping them walls, and that's what you want, and there's a lot of resistance when I'm turning it over. When we took this out and I was turning it over, it was like no resistance. I could just sit there with one finger and just boop, 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 boop. This would be very hard for one finger. I mean, there's a lot of drag there, and that's what you want. That's those pistons rings dragging on that crosshatch. So we're good to go here. It's pretty crazy. I mean, just look at this little block, and it's pretty crazy to think that this thing makes the power that it makes and goes down the track as fast as it does. I mean, tiny little pistons. I mean, my hand's bigger than these pistons. And, you know, it's not like a ton of material in these little four cylinders, but man, sucker holds together, and I'm glad it does because it's a ton of fun. So next up, we're going to start putting all the accessories on it, throw an oil filter on it, get everything bolted up on the front, get the timing chain on, Honda bond that on, and then once we hang it from the crane over there, we'll go ahead and throw our converter adapter stuff on, get the oil pan on, and everything will be ready to go. So we got our nice little Cinnamon Toast Crunch block here. We got our studs in, that's what we hang the block from. So we're gonna go ahead and get it on the stand and go ahead and start getting our adapter plates on. Tighten everything up, we already tightened the crank. Well, I was installing the flywheel and I found something. That, my friends, is a hairline fracture on the flywheel. And it starts in the nook there. Can't really see it. Hold on a second. All right, so I think it's actually stops. There it is. All right, you can see it. That doesn't stop. It goes all the way to the edge there and then stops. So you guys can see that pretty good in the video. That's not good. I don't know how it cracked. I mean, this is a billet aluminum flywheel. Too much VTEC, I guess. And I don't know how long it's been like that. It could have been like that for a while. So I'm trying to get this together tomorrow, so I at least have some run time and break-in time of the rings before the race. So I think I'm trying to get a hold of Bailey. He's about an hour away, but he's the only one I feel comfortable hitting that with a weld. I think if we weld the crack up, and then I could even, sand it, buff it down so it's pretty even. I'd feel a lot more comfortable putting that back in. But putting it in like that, I think the crack's gonna get worse. This could really crack bad, and then we could have some serious issues. So if I can get a hold of Bailey, I'm gonna run this over tonight if he's there and see if he can't weld that little bit up. Well guys, I'm gonna get a hold of ATF Speed first thing in the morning, see if they got one of these and if they can get it to me ASAP. ATF's been real good to me. I've tore up some other parts of theirs and they've always had it and they've always shipped it out pretty quick. Hopefully they can get me this flywheel as soon as possible because I don't have a lot of time to get the car running, get the rings broken, make some test hits, etc. Get any bugs worked out of it. It shouldn't really have any bugs. I mean, like I said, all we did was re-ring the motor, put new bearings in it. So everything should be very similar. Nothing changes with the tune or nothing. So as long as everything's good with the rings, we shouldn't have any problems making a race as long as I can get a flywheel. So I'm gonna call him tomorrow. I did talk to Bailey. He's a little worried about kind of messing with something like that with the flywheel. He also said if you just weld on top of a crack of billet aluminum, he goes, you don't really fix the crack. The crack's kind of under the weld and it can just kind of continue to work its way through. He said what you actually have to do is kind of drill the crack out and then fill it in and remachine it. So I don't really want to go through all that. Of course, that'll take a lot of time and cost and stuff. So we're just going to see if we can get a new wheel. So going to be done for tonight and be done for the weekend. So hopefully next time you guys see me, hopefully I'll have some good news and hopefully I'll have a flywheel. All right, well, I just got off the phone with ATF. They have not seen this happen at all. So once again, I'm like the first car to break stuff. So, yeah, so they suggested that I so I don't run Loctite on my flywheel bolts to the crank. I never have. I always ran ARP lube to get proper torque. And they told me that I need to start running Loctite on the flywheel bolts. They said that the Loctite almost acts as like a softening buffer with vibrations and harmonics through the motor to the transmission. And they think that the crack happened because of harmonics. So they suggest running red Loctite on the flywheel bolts. So the Loctite will be like a buffer between the crank and the bolts that are attached to the back of the plate. Do I think that's gonna help? I don't know. I don't really know how all that stuff works, but that's what they're suggesting. So I guess I will start running red Loctite on my flywheel bolts, which I'm not really all that fan of because I've never, ever had a flywheel bolt back out on me, ever. I've seen a lot of guys tear up cranks because of that. They have a plate. They're shipping a plate to me, but it's not going to be here till next week, midweek, probably Tuesday. That means I got Tuesday night, if it gets here in decent time, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, I'll have all day Friday to mess with the car, and then Saturday's the race. So we should be good. I really wanted the car up this weekend, so I had the week to work out any bugs. But it is what it is. I really contemplated just throwing it on and running it how it is. But then when I get the new plate, I'll have to tear it all back apart to get to the plate. I'd have to at least drop the transmission and take all that off. And it's not fun. It's pain in the ass to drop all this stuff out of this car. It's not a race car, so everything's very hard to get to. Everything's very tight. If it was like a race car and it was easy to get to, I probably would just throw that in and run it and then replace it with the new one. But it's not that easy. It's quite a job to do all this. So I'm just gonna hold off and wait we'll have the plate Tuesday. I'll put the new plate on, bolt everything in Tuesday night, probably get it in the car Tuesday night, and then probably Wednesday after work, try to get the car running and get the rings and stuff broken. So it's gonna be quite the sprint to get this car ready for this weekend, but that's racing, that's what we do. So hold on tight, and I'll be here with you here shortly, hopefully with a new flywheel. We got our new flywheel from ATF. Here she is, nice and blingy. So they gave me a couple of ideas. They think that the crack was due to harmonics. That flywheel has been in the car for 7 years. It has seen a lot of abuse. It has seen a blown up motor. It has seen a blown up rear end. It has seen a lot of RPM, a lot of boost, a lot of power. Really not really sure if it was harmonics, when it broke, if it cracked because of the severity of the motor, throwing a rod, we don't know. But anyways, we got a new flywheel, we're gonna pop it on and we're gonna get ready for this race. So let's get this flywheel on and get this motor. All right, she's on. Blue Loctite to the inside, put ARP on the lip, and she's on just like ATF said. We're gonna put our converter on, with our bolts, and then we'll be ready. Finally in, and she's strapped up. Now we just got to throw the motor mounts on. And that's what I really like about these innovative billets, is they literally just slide right down on that mount, where the old style you had to mess with the post. So I can literally like slide it down, bolt to the motor, and then slide the bolt through, and it's super easy. Well, you can tell by my hands that the hard part is done, which is getting the block in the motor, the block in the motor, getting the motor in the car and getting trans all hooked up, which we have done successfully. So everything's good. Motor mounts are in, trans mount is in, Cinnamon Toast Crunch box is in. Yeah, I was just using this as a guard, guys. I just didn't want to get anything, down in the goods. So nice little guard, just for future, if you guys need a little guard. I use chains. I didn't want the chains down there banging on the cylinder walls and stuff, so I always use like a piece of cardboard or something, and I had a Cinnamon Toast Crunch box, so that's what I used. Everything else is good. So this was really my goal for tonight. I working on after my day job, and I don't want to get burned out, so I think I'm probably gonna call it a night. I don't like rushing motor installs because I don't want to miss stuff, and you miss stuff and then it causes more work because you got to go back and take stuff off or whatever. So I normally just take my time. So tonight's goal was to get the block in, get it mounted, converters bolted up, transmissions bolted up. It's sitting in the car. Now I can put the wheels in the car and actually drop the car back down, so it's easy to work on. So then tomorrow I'm going to be doing alternator, the water stuff, getting my head back on, getting everything bolted up, and that'll probably be the goal tomorrow, is just kind of get everything almost ready to fire. guys have these coupler clamps. I'll show you guys an easy way to install these without cursing too much. So, instead of trying to put it on with one pin out, I take both pins out, and it's much easier to do half and half. So what you do is you throw half on, and then you spin it, and then you'll throw the other half on, and then you just pin them. Much easier. I'll show you guys really quick. The other trick to this is you get your rings on one side and you leave that O-ring dry. The O-rings that you're gonna put in, put a little bit of Vaseline or oil or assembly lube or something, and that way the ring stays, but when you pop this in, it goes in much easier. So, start the bottom, half clamps, take them apart. Go ahead and get your guy in there, and then you're gonna put half of it on, all right? Gotta have the logo facing forward. You don't have to, guys, I'm just saying. I like my stuff clean looking. And then you just slap these guys, pins back in. Put these clamps on. Like, look how easy it is. All right, guys, we are all set. We're pretty much back together. Just cranked it, looked for oil pressure, and had a scare there for a minute. This motor took forever to make oil pressure. I mean, forever. I was cranking and cranking and cranking. What is going on? I knew I had everything. First thing that popped into mind, that front cover, there's that little O-ring. You guys have to have that in. If you cut it or miss it, it will not build oil pressure. That's your main oil pressure channel. So if that's not in there, you won't have oil pressure. I knew that was in there. I knew the key was in because all the cams are moving. And obviously I knew I had an oil pump in there, and I just filled it with 5 quarts of break-in Brad Penn, and I'm like, what's going on? This thing probably, total crank time, probably at least like 3 or 4 minutes of cranking. Of course, pull your plugs out when you're doing that. But man, it took forever. Most of the time, I see oil pressure within a minute, and this thing took forever. What's going on? I took the valve cover off just to see if I had any oil, and I didn't, of course. So I was a little worried, but anyways, everything's good. So it's late, it's dark out. I got to get to work in the morning, so this is going to be it for tonight. But I will be back out here tomorrow, and this thing should be firing up. It's going to be Thursday night. I just got to plug in some sensors, get some fuel in it, and crank it. All right, we are putting water in the system. We got oil in there. I'm gonna go ahead and hook up my other waste gate, get my cold packs in, and we're gonna be first start. We're running. Well, we are back from seating the rings in, and everything's good to go. We got no smokes, we got no leaks. I did a little temporary crankcase pressure. That's my little temporary crankcase pressure guy. I just unhooked my one breather hose and hooked up a pressure sensor, which is normally my coolant sensor. I'm kind of out of inputs on the race ECU. So yeah, I should have went with the Next Max, which has, I think, like 5 more inputs. I didn't think I'd max it out, and I did. I just keep putting sensors on this car. But anyways, so I really can only monitor coolant or crankcase pressure right now because I'm out of inputs. It's not that big of a deal. So like crankcase wise, I probably won't monitor it a lot. What I'll probably do is when I start running real boost, I'll probably do 1 or 2 race hits with the crankcase pressure and get a baseline and see what the car's doing. I already did it, and it seems to be really low, like 1 or 2 pounds, until it hits about almost redline, like 83, 84, and it starts to climb, and it only climbs like a pound or 2, so it gets to about 3 or 4 pounds. As soon as I shift, it drops really quick. So that's good. I don't know how much crankcase pressure I had when it was pushing. My guess is to push a valve cover gasket out, it had to have been like 20 some pounds of pressure in there. I think it takes a good bit of crankcase pressure to push oil out the top of the valve cover gasket. So when you're doing that, or if you guys are blowing the dipstick out the top, you're probably 10, 15 pounds pressure, and valve cover gasket, probably more. So we definitely had a lot of crankcase pressure because those rings were not sealing good. But what I'm gonna do now, so I just got done doing my ring braking procedure. Car's pulling good. Saw about 25, 28 pounds of boost on ethanol, and seemed to pull pretty good. No smokes, nothing crazy. I checked for leaks. I did have a crazy transmission leak. As you can see, it goes all the way out the driveway, and I had to wash the car off underneath. I guess what happened when I dropped the trans, was doing everything, one of the lines kind of got loose, and I didn't realize it. And it didn't actually come loose until like I was coming back, and I felt the transmission kind of slipping when I shifted, and I'm like, uh-oh. I knew something was going on, losing fluid or something. So I pretty much almost lost all my fluid. Luckily, I was already in my neighborhood, and I'm only like putting and idle. So everything seems fine. I filled it up. Transmission seems fine. Nothing smelled burn or nothing. So luckily, I caught that quickly. But everything looks good. Topped off the transmission fluid. So what we're gonna do now, I'm gonna let it cool off a little bit. I actually might go ahead and do a compression and leak down. It's kind of early to do that just because like I just broke the rings in, so it might show a little bit of leakage because your initial ring break in, you probably get them like 80 to 90% on that first couple hits, and then they do tend to get a little bit better after a couple races and stuff. But for the most part, they're pretty much in. But since I gotta let it cool off anyways before I drain the oil and get my hand on the exhaust, I might as well just throw in some compression tester, maybe a leak down, just kind of see where the numbers are at and see what it does. It might pull a really good leak down number. All right, so as you can see, we're at 50 and we're right at the 60 mark. So number 2 is also right around 10%. Not bad. Well, guys, we're looking good. We got less than 10% in every cylinder, 175 on compression. So we're looking really good. I think I know what I'm doing. That's good. So again, guys, ball hone, new rings, bring your motor back to life easily. Now that we have a way to look at crankcase pressure, probably at the race tomorrow, I might do a run or 2 with the crankcase pressure attached, see what it's doing, and then I'll go back and throw it back in my coolant because the coolant pressure, of course, I like to monitor that in case I have any head gasket issues. And then we can always throw the sensor back in to get a crankcase pressure reading again. What I really need is another input. Probably should have went to the next step up, max ECU, but is what it is. Once again, I don't really need to monitor this all the time. If I feel like I'm getting a lot of vitals, I can throw the sensor on, do a quick pull, measure it and see. So as long as we get a good baseline of crankcase pressure, I'll be able to see what a healthy motor likes. All right, important step to break in is getting the braking oil out and getting all that assembly lube and the filings from the walls out of the motor. So we're going to drain the brake-in oil. We're going to pull the filter. We're going to open the filter up. New filter, 2050 brad pen for racing, and she'll be set. All right, we drained the brake-in oil, and look what I did. I made a little crankcase pressure dealio. So check it out. Took my dipstick out and put some O-rings and some washers. And now I have pressure from crankcase going over here to my crankcase pressure. And I can unclip here and then clip there to my coolant and jump back and forth whenever I want. So pretty cool. We're gonna go in and throw our 2050 Brad pen in and get the hood on and wash this thing. You can see the crap that sprayed all over the windshield when I was blowing oil everywhere. It was coming out all over the place here, up front. It was spraying all over the wastegates. I mean, it was a smoke show, let me tell you. But I think we're back in action. But that's gonna do it, guys. We're just going to get this girl washed up, get the hood on, and get ready for race day tomorrow at Berkeley Springs. We're gonna be running 2 classes. There's gonna be a street class and there's gonna be a 630 index. And I said, you know what, might as well run both, why not? So I got a nice 630 tune up in the car, and then I got my full blown going to gap somebody tune as well. So we'll see how she does. I got slicks from Keith at Keith's Pit Stop. Gonna throw the slicks on tomorrow, see if she can bite, throw some weight in her and let her rip. But that's gonna do it, guys. I will see you guys at the racetrack tomorrow. Appreciate it. Comment, like, subscribe if you like what you're watching. I'll see you guys later. Peace.